Good morning. Here I am, Norma Cowie, once more with a Sunday thought. Actually, I've had a frog in my throat for the last few minutes, wondering if I was even going to be able to talk effectively. So let's keep our fingers crossed. And that fits in a little bit with my topic today. I have written down here choices, forgiveness, perception. I picked out one of my God cards yesterday thinking about what am I going to talk about tomorrow? And it says this: everything I see is my interpretation, a story I tell myself. And I'm going to come back to that in a moment because the other side is always very similar. It says we see things not as they are, but as we are. And that's our perceptions. We have belief systems that we have inside that we've created by the choices that we make at different times, and we choose. And when we make a choice, very often the belief system goes in deep within our subconscious and it stays there. And we begin to have perceptions of what we perceive and see. We will take words and turn them around sometimes to fit with these perceptions that we have had. This is natural. It happens. And I found for myself, there were times when I had to do a massive amount of forgiveness for myself. And I always believe that forgiveness is easy to sort of forgive other people, but the reality is to forgive yourself for your part of whatever. And to forgive in a bigger way. And I've spent quite sometimes months working on long-term forgiveness over things not even aware of, many lives and facts. And what I found that as I forgave myself, I began to make different choices, not always effectively, because habits are another whole story. And we can talk about habits at some point or other, because we all have them. We react without thinking. We have perceptions, again, that really support our habits, or our habits support our perceptions. And so very often it's, again, taking a look at where we are, what we're doing, how it's working. And we will choose by all these things. Now, right now, very often, and we're coming into beautiful spring, and April's heading down the turnpike, you might say, very fast. And so it's, again, what are we choosing to do? I know that I'm always buy my flowers for my garden in April, right? And sometimes into May, depending on the weather. I know by Mother's Day, I want my pots. I live where I have pots outside on. And I want them all done by Mother's Day for sure. And that may seem a little late sometimes. But sometimes we have longish winters, or our springtime is a little cooler, so I don't like putting them out too soon. But you see, these are all decisions that we make. These are all choices that we have. And that's one thing I am very, very happy as a human, that we do get to make some choices. We're not just held into a sort of this is what you do because this is how it goes. But the reality is we keep ourselves in those. And sometimes we need to sit back and really take a look at how we're perceiving things, how we are in our habits of looking at certain things. What were we raised with? Sometimes I have to go way back in my history to take a look at how come I believe or take a certain stand on certain things. And it's always there. It's always part of what I have taken in and how I've handled, or how I've pulled it together and brought it forth. So when we take a look at choices, sometimes we don't realize that most of our choices are just pure habit. Most of our choices come from our perceptions that we have been given by parents, by society, by other friends, whatever. But they're ours. And at some point of time, we need to come to that place of making, or I should say, assuming the responsibility, excuse me, of the choices that we make, of the beliefs that we hold. the perceptions that we react to and perceive and see. There is a tremendous amount of difference sometimes if we look back, for those of us that are older and we look back in our lives, we can see where we've made changes. I see a lot of clients, or over the years, I've seen many, many clients, but it's very interesting the stage you are in relation to your life. And I had my son came and visited me for a few days, and we were talking about how he's approaching another big shift within his lifetime. We go through shifts, and in one of the elements that I learned along the way was about the 30-year-old cycle. Now, if you're into astrology, it's a 28-year cycle with Saturn. But there was an astrologer in Australia that talked about the 30-year cycle. And I find it fits so well because when we turn 30, and I usually have found 2 years on either side to complete the cycle. We started about 2 years before, which would fit in with the 28-year-old cycle. And then but it seems to consolidate 2 years after. So you got 4 years of transition from say 28 to 32, from 58 to 62. Big changes. And yet when we're living in them, we don't always see it as that. But again, I go back into here about how we see things, not as they are, but as we are, because we shift and we change. We go through these decades, actually, as we look at it each decade. And I find that very often, if I'm doing readings for people and they're in their 20s, it's not that I plan it that way, but my responses to the 20-year-old is going to be very different to a 30-year-old sometimes. Different words, different perceptions, different awareness brought back, because this has a lot to do with the choices that you make or the situations that come up in your life. Life is a wonderful, wonderful thing, and it's here to be enjoyed. And right now, there's again stresses coming from the world outside to us, and we just need to know and hold on to our own beliefs, our own faith of who we are and where we're going. And one thing I've learned, and I've talked about this before, was everything adds. And sometimes what adds doesn't feel very nice, or it feels painful, or it feels, like, what am I doing with this? But it adds to your awareness. It adds to your growth. It adds to your perception of who you are, where you're going, and what you're creating. And so what I would like my Sunday thought today is really about become aware of your perceptions. Become aware of what choices you have made in the past. And do you want to repeat those choices, or are you going to choose differently? Because are you going to tell yourself a different story? Are you going to be aware of what you want to perceive and what you want to see? And remember this, philosophically is really important. How are you seeing your world? Are you seeing your world philosophically? Are you finding your spirituality needing a little bit of a hold up? There is many places to go to be able to be refreshed, to know that the soul of what you have within you is eternal. It keeps going. And so very often we get caught up in what is happening immediately. And there's still a lot of fear out there, I find. And so it's about coming into the inner core of you and trusting this beautiful world that we live in. Is look for beautiful things. The sky. If you're around water, look at the water. The water just comes in. Like if you're by a beach, comes in and out. I'm by lakes now. And some of the scenes are great because I have hills on the sides. Some of them are still covered with a little bit of snow. Beauty. We have is a reflection of the beauty that we have within. Make sure that you are aware of your beauty, not so much what we look like up in the face, but inside, because that gets reflected. The peace that we have inside comes forward, and you begin to know who you are. So just take a moment, think about your choices you've made in your life, and some of them you have to forgive. I am huge on self-forgiveness, huge on that. And so look at your perceptions and just know life goes on. Every day that sun comes up and every night it goes down. And what we make of it, what our beliefs are, what our habits are there. I wish you well for this coming week. Remember, I will be back tomorrow night for mental mind treatments. And if you would like to email me, send me through my website, normacowie.com, what you would like to have a mental mind treatment for. And if you want to add 3 numbers between 1 and 22, using those numbers as well, if you want, out of the top of your head. That's how I often do little readings for myself. I think of 3 numbers off the top of my head, and then I have my message of what I want to know. We are wonderful, great beings. And anyway, just let me know, because then I'm quite happy during Monday night, live at 7, just as I am live on Sunday mornings. And then Wednesday, I'll be taking a look at the month of April. You have a great day, great week, and thank you for your support, your subscriptions, your shares, everything, your comments. I really appreciate it. You have a great day. Thank you.